Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Here's all of the rebuilds that we have left to do on the entire Farmall H project. Everything just on this little pop-up bench. And I'm trying really hard to get in the mood to do any one of them. Sometimes I have to be in the mood to do like smaller, more intricate items. I prefer big ones. I like transmissions, I like engines, I like axle housings. Eeny, meeny, miny carburetor. We'll just start with that. I guess that's the least objectionable of the lot today. So this is what we're going to do. This is one that was rebuilt last time. And when I say last time, I mean 15 years ago. And it never left a primer coat. It was still working all right. The last few years, it seemed like it was getting ready for a couple of fine-tune adjustments, which means it's probably gradually just getting a little bit dirtier inside all the time. Outside is plenty dirty. Yeah, look at the gunk on the bottom of that. Let's get this cleaned up enough that we can take it apart without making everything just completely disgusting. And that is quite a bit better. So one thing I like to do before I start taking any of these apart is to note the adjustments on the three main adjustable needles. Idle stop here was only about a half turn out. That's not quite so critical. This is, reference my notes once again, the idle needle, that was about 1/3 of a turn out, and this is the main jet, that was about 1 1/4 turns out. I just get those written down so I can reference those with the recommended generic initial settings that usually come with the carburetor repair kit. We can get some of these periphery items off. These are the 2 screws for the throttle linkage tube. And well, we might as well take the inlet fitting off. Fuel line attaches to this, and there should be a screen on the end of this. Yep. And the screen doesn't look too dirty, so that's a good thing. Next, 3 screws to separate the upper housing from the lower. 2 on this side, and flip it over. 1 goes in from the other way down there. And of course, we get some gaskets that like to try to stick to both pieces at the same time. So we'll just carefully get that detached. Don't want to do anything to damage the float that's on the inside. Oh, it's stubborn. It's still, okay, it just wants to go with the top. All right, we'll let it go with the top. Come on. You can do it. Left. There we are. All right, first look inside the bowl, fuel bowl. Doesn't look bad. So here is our gasket in question. Looks like that's under the venturi. So that should be just a slip fit. If this was an old dirty carburetor, you might have to fight that to get it out. But yeah, for the most part, it doesn't look bad. Now the gasket will come off. Just looking at everything. Inlet needle still moves. Yep. Float looks pretty good. Now these float pivot pins are usually just a free floating design because they're pretty well caged in by the walls of the fuel bowl that surround it on each side. It's impossible for it to migrate out. This one is still pretty tight though. And of the 2 legs that hold it, this inside one has a split. So what we want to do is take a smaller screwdriver and put it into the split below the pin, give it a little bit of a twist, and that should spread those legs, take the bind off the pin. We can then push the pin the rest of the way out. So that's what we're going to do right here. A little bit of a twist, take the bind off. Yep, and we've got the pin moving now. See if I can pull it with the pliers. Yep, there we go. So far enough we can disengage the float. Inlet needle should come out. Yep. There. Pivot pin the rest of the way out. And what I'm doing now is taking the bracket, if you will, off that the float pivots on. You don't have to do this, but I prefer to do this because I do like to ensure that all of the gasket surfaces are perfectly flat. So this will have to be out of the way when we do that. Plus, it makes it easier to get a wrench on the inlet needle seat to spin that out. Going to the outside of the housing now, I like to remove this plug up here. It's just an end plug for a passage drilling, and this passage you can see goes here and then goes down to here. There's the hole on the other end right there, and let's see if we can get a screwdriver in here to show y'all. It connects to this little slot right off the end of the screwdriver tip right there, and that is a bypass around the throttle plate when it is closed. It's going to help you quite a lot with low idle. So we definitely want to get that opened up. Make sure we get both of those passages good and clean. Both of the throttle plate screws come out now. Sometimes these are mashed over on the back side to prevent them from walking out. These were not. I guess it's up to you if you want to do that or not. So there's both of those, and then we can open that throttle. We can walk the plate out like that. Throttle shaft can be withdrawn. Okay, got a small little bushing in there. Everything was nice and tight too. The shaft looks good. I think I've got a new one in the kit anyway, but that is a bushing that could be replaced if it ever wore excessively loose. And we can take the idle stop screw out. You can see it's quite long in there. It's got this friction spring on it to help it maintain position. There we are. And with that, we've got the entire upper body of the carburetor disassembled. Okay, now we start on the bottom portion. So there's a few more passages and things going on down here, but for the most part it's not that much worse than what we've already done with the top parts. So we might as well take the choke shaft, lever, and flapper out, and there is a detent that is on the back side of this choke lever. I don't know if we're going to really be able to see. There's a small little detent track on the back side of the choke lever back there, and there's a spring with a little round detent ball under that, and that's what helps to hold it open and hold it closed. So another thing to watch for that can make your day a little bit easier, on the choke plate in here, right off the end of the screwdriver right there is a small arrow inscribed in the plate that points up. That's going to help you a lot for positioning that plate back in when we go to put it together. And once again, sometimes the threads on the back sides of these plate screws are mashed over to keep them from walking out. These never were. So I have done that to plate screws that I've put in before, mostly in downdraft carburetors. This being an updraft carb, if one of these screws were to migrate out, chances of it going into the engine are pretty small. But on a downdraft where gravity could take them down into the intake manifold, I usually do take a few steps to make sure they're not going to ever come out. So, all right, there's both the screws. The plate should come out as well at this point. Should and does are often two different things, though. Get in there, grab a hold of it. There we are. Now we can withdraw the choke shaft. Here is the ball bearing I was telling you about. Very small, easy to lose. And we can grab the spring with a pick. Get that pulled out again. Very small little pieces. Now we do have this, it's basically a sleeve. It's like a plug, but it's got a big hole in the center for that choke shaft to pass through. And there is a seal on the inside of that. So we will want to dig that out as well. And I should also add, don't be a bit afraid to just ruin the heck out of these pieces, because they're always included in the carburetor rebuild kit. So that's what's left of the round felt seal. And you do want to have a seal on that choke shaft, because we are in between the air filter and the carburetor, basically engine portion. So if we pull dirty air in around that choke shaft, it's all going to the inside. So that's why they put that in place. And to tell you the truth, I'm about 50-50 getting these sleeves out without completely wrecking them. This one is one that I had to completely wreck. Let's see if I've got it loose enough to pull. Right there, got it out. What I had to do here, come on, all right. Pliers are slightly magnetic. What I had to do here was take the end of an old center punch, and I grind a pretty sharp angled point on it so you can get right down the side of it, gently tap it in, and what that does is it collapses it and then it loosens it right up. You can peel it out after that. So next we will look at the bowl drain. All right, we might as well take this out. Something easy to do. So we've just got the wing nut type drain stop. It's got a hole in it, goes down through the center. That was so full of dirt. I hadn't used it ever. Lots of debris coming out of there. Housing for that comes out next. It's just pipe thread on the end. And next up is this piece down in here. It's called the discharge nozzle. And it's a hollow tube that goes all the way down through here. There's holes around the perimeter of it, and it threads into what looks like a plug down here. That's like a nut for the end of it. Okay, so that piece and that piece are both connected, and 5/16 hex on it, and usually they come apart, yeah, pretty easy. You can put a screwdriver down in this one if you have to, but you rarely ever need to. So now that it's loose, we can take the nut off the back side. Oops, there's a small gasket under that, and nozzle will come out. You see another gasket under this end of it, and got a hole down through it, and there's see holes drilled around the perimeter. The idle air adjusting needle comes out now. Again, a spring under it to help it maintain position. And right here, very small, you can see a screwdriver slot goes across the top. This is the idling jet, and it threads in. So you want to have a screwdriver that has a good sharp end on it. You don't want to round it out or break it. Otherwise you're going to have a lot of fun twisting it out. But for the most part, these usually don't really stick. All right, we've got that out, small little threads on the end of it, and we need to make sure the center hole is open before we put it back together. And now on the bottom, here's the main jet adjusting screw, and this is actually a packing nut right here. Okay, we got like a pipe thread fit to the body, but it's packing seal to the needle. Kind of funny the way they work that. The needle does come out. Might as well take it out to show you all. See how it's kind of tight in there yet? That's where the packing rides on that smooth section right there. So we'll have a good look at that. That's the good old graphite packing in there yet too. Sometimes the new kits don't include graphite, so I have reused these before if they're still good. Yes, and after some soul searching, I decided I'm going to leave that packing slug in there. It looks way too good to dig out and ruin. It's not easy to find that stuff anymore. So the plan for now is to just carefully clean around it, and I think we will be fine. So the last thing I need to take out is going to be this round disc here with that small hole in the center. That's an overflow drain. So if you look down through the inside of the carburetor, right off the end of the screwdriver right here is that small hole. If you were trying to start this with the choke closed and you flooded it and some excess gasoline ran down into the bottom inlet part of the carburetor here, it will run out that hole and through a media like another felt plug that is on the other side of this round disc, and it can just run out the bottom of the carburetor and you're not trying to pull an excessive amount of gas into the engine. So that media in there just makes it so that you can't suck any dirty air through it, but the liquid fuel can run out. And being a Welch plug design, that means that I should be able to pound it further down in and release its hold on the housing. Yep, that allows you to dig it out. And I would say that stuff is ready for replacement. Let's see if I can grab it with the pliers. Of course, it pulls a lot of dirt, or it gets a lot of dirt pulled into itself as well. So, all right, that's just a big cavity back there behind. So that's it. We're completely apart. Okay, everybody, that's really all there is to a typical Farmall H carburetor. This is not Super H or anything that's, level 2 or beyond. This is just the plain Jane, what you can expect to find in one of these very common units. So now that we've got it all apart, there's a lot of cleanup that has to be done, a little bit of reconditioning. For the most part, I didn't see anything here that really worried me at all. We've got our new complete rebuild kit at the ready, so a lot of the critical parts from this will be replaced with those. But for now, I think I'm going to wrap the episode right here. If anything, just to make it a little bit easier to follow along if you're trying to go through this for the first time, it'll be easier to do a separate disassembly episode, which is what we just did. And then we will follow this up with the recondition and reassembly episode, and things should go back together a little bit smoother with that one because we don't have to spend quite so much time kind of describing everything. So hope you all enjoyed the episode. I hope you all found it helpful, and I hope to see you all back again